Well, joining us after a day of chaos at Westminster, we say good morning to the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, and that is Chris Heaton-Harris.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Secretary of State. Now, you've got a job today to defend the government on this. Your thoughts on Robert Jenrick's resignation?
Well, I actually think it's a great shame that Robert has chosen to resign, because he was in the process of delivering the toughest illegal migration policies that this country has ever seen. We all know that, or I think we all know, I'm not sure what Labour think, but my party believes we need to stop the boats, and we have tried a whole host of different legal legislative attempts so far. The Supreme Court ruled against elements of those, and so we now have a treaty with Rwanda which says essentially that the country is safe. We now have a bill to go through Parliament which talks about how we can remove people to Rwanda, that some of the issues we've had that took people off the flight to Rwanda last time have been solved by this legislation. And indeed we're moving on making sure the numbers on those that come to this country legally are reduced as well. So we have got a complete package of legislation that Robert has been helping to design over the course of time. And he was an excellent minister, and I'm really sad he's gone.
Helping to design, but he's seen that it failed in the court. And I'm scratching my head. You're saying we've got a treaty now, we've got a bill that says that it is a safe country. Doesn't mean that's true. This is a democracy. We have a legislature and we have an executive. And it seems to me that just because government has said something is so, doesn't mean it's the case. Otherwise, I could write a bill. If I was in Parliament, and I could say, right, Isabel Webster is the Queen of Sheba. Total nonsense.
Very good idea.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know what the Queen of Sheba would actually think about that, but actually, forgive me, but you're not quite right there, because we are answering the questions that the Supreme Court ruling
in your
that
opinion,
said this policy
hasn't been tested in the courts
could
yet.
not work. Actually, I mean, I'm Secretary of State for Northern Ireland. We've just passed a bill on legacy and reconciliation in Northern Ireland, which some say, indeed, is being tested in the courts at this point in time. But it is an act of Parliament set up a body to deal with reconciliation and retrieving information in Northern Ireland, and policies are always, constantly challenged in the courts. But yes, we can actually make an act. We can say, and we are comfortable in saying, that Rwanda is a safe country to remove people to, and it is part of government policy.
But forgive me, the point I was trying to make, I mean, Robert Jenrick saying this is hope over experience, because he knows, as you say, and rightly so, there will be, there should be due process, there will be challenges to this, there will be delays. He does not think that this will work. It doesn't go far enough, and he wants to pull out of the ECHR. What's your view on that?
Yeah, so, and actually, in the Prime Minister's reply to Robert's resignation letter last night, I mean, the Prime Minister did say that Robert was probably resigning on the wrong thing, because actually in this piece of legislation we are now removing how a number of reasons why individuals could and have in the past used our legal system to remove themselves from flights. So you can no longer claim asylum. That's 90% of all claims previously. You can no longer evoke a number of human rights parts of the Human Rights Act, which was 63% of those that were removed from the flight last year. So there's a whole host of things that are in this bill that really does strengthen this, and in fact, you'll be really having to go some to be able to prove that you'll be in immediate harm or danger if you went to Rwanda to be pulled off a flight. Yeah. And I don't think I think the chances of that are quite invisibly, vanishingly small.
And just to be clear on this, Secretary of State, you see no need, no reason to disassociate ourselves or pull out of the European Court of Human Rights?
Just to be completely clear, the European Court of Human Rights is actually a fundamental part of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, which brought 25 years of peace to Northern Ireland after 30 years of troubles. There are absolutely issues with some of the rulings of the ECHR. No one's going to say there isn't. But there is a fundamental point here about how we are comfortable that what we're doing is complying with all our international obligations with this piece of legislation. The big question is for us is whether Labour will allow it to go through an expedited path so we can actually stop the boats as the British public want as soon as possible.
I don't really think that Labour is the big problem in all of this for the Conservative Party. It seems as though there's, such big divisions now within your own party. If I may finish the point.
No, I'm afraid...
I mean, you've got the One Nation Tories on the one hand, I presume much like yourself, who are absolutely committed to international conventions. And then you have now this coalescence of the right of the party, this coalesced group, who are absolutely furious. And you had Suella Braverman standing up in Parliament yesterday saying you're going to face electoral oblivion unless you do something about this. It's your own party. I mean, there's no authority left in the Prime Minister Sunak.
I'm afraid I have to completely disagree with you. I mean, the one thing that, forgive the noise in the background, they're blowing a lot of leaves around just behind the cameraman. One thing that is absolutely true is that everybody in the Conservative Party, Parliamentary Party and elsewhere wants to make sure we have policies that do actually stop the boats. Now, there are some that say we need to go a lot further, but that really does, I mean, even as the Prime Minister pointed out in his reply to Robert Jenrick yesterday, that when we start to go against our international obligations, the Rwandans would pull out of this agreement, and then we wouldn't have anywhere to send to return these people to. So, we want the strictest possible policies to deal with this illegal migration into our country. We want to be able to remove people to Rwanda so they can be processed. Their claims can be processed there. And this is the strongest piece of illegal migration policy that this country has ever had. And we need to get it through Parliament, which is why we need an emergency procedure to do this. And that's actually where we do need the support of Labour to allow it to go through as quickly as possible, and not, as they have done in every other piece of legislation to deal with the issues we have with stopping the boats, either voted against or used their Labour lords to try and stymie this.
Chris Heaton-Harris, good talking to you. We'll say goodbye to you. Thanks very much for your time this morning. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. So it's very interesting. So Robert Jenrick, there you have Chris Heaton-Harris saying this is the strongest piece of anti-migration policy that there has ever been. And someone like Robert Jenrick or Suella Braverman says it's a joke, it's a laugh, it's just going to be challenged in court. What do you think? We want your views on all of this this morning. GBviews@gbnews.com.